Hello, viewers, and welcome to the latest episode of The Huddle. Tim Poole here, editor of Gambling Insider, and I'm with Michael Hershman, CEO of the Soloviev Group. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you this morning, Tim, or as I said, this afternoon, your time.
Absolutely. We have plenty to talk about, plenty of interesting, exciting topics. But the first one, approaching, and maybe by the time this airs, it'll be around 3 years since you were CEO. How do you reflect on that time? And in the day-to-day, tell us about kind of what it is you do.
Well, look, when you're CEO of a multi-industry, multi-sector company as large as the Soloviev Group is, it's like a roller coaster. We're highly diversified, not only into real estate, but into agriculture, into transportation, entertainment. And so it keeps you on your toes.
Mm-hmm. Given those industries you just mentioned, where does gaming fit into that? Is it kind of almost a small percentage, or these days does it actually infiltrate into more of those because it's entertainment as well?
Well, that's a good question. So it falls under our hospitality and entertainment division. And there's a great deal of, I would say, nexus between our other hotel and restaurant and entertainment or hospitality interests and what we plan to do on this integrated resort, which includes a casino.
Yeah, great segue into, of course, what for us is with all due respect, probably the most interesting piece of news with regarding your company, the bid for the New York license. In terms of an overall overview, I just wanted to simply ask, where are we now? What is the latest in the process for you guys?
Well, the latest happened just 2 days ago, and that is the State Gaming Commission came down with information which has essentially delayed the license procedure. They're now anticipating that the license will not be granted until the last quarter of 2025. We had estimated previously, it was not an estimate, actually, it was a guesstimate that the license might be issued as early as the second quarter of 2025. The process is a little bit clarified now. All the applicants will first have to go through the zoning changes and get zoning approval before the next stage, which is the submission of the applications. And then the stage after that, which is the establishment of the community advisory boards for public hearings. I know that sounds confusing, but when you're dealing with New York State government, you need to expect confusing.
Sure. How much of a hindrance is that delay that you just mentioned?
Well, from our standpoint, it's not a great hindrance, although I must tell you, I'm not a man known for his patience, but it is a disappointing, I think, to many people in the state legislature because, in part, this is about generating new tax revenue, and the license fees alone on the 3 licenses would be $1.5 billion, $500 million each. That is desperately needed by the state, the city, and they will not now see that likely until the very end of 2025 or perhaps even early 2026.
Bearing that in mind, and I guess from a neutral standpoint, how hopeful are you still of gaining that eventual license now compared to, say, when you started out the process? Have there been any signs that you're more encouraged, or hopefully not going the other way?
Well, I think we're even more encouraged. We're very excited about it. I think that our proposal gives so much back to the community and has so many different elements to it that it gives us an advantage. We do have another advantage besides giving back to the community. We own the property that we intend to build on, and it's already pre-zoned. So our zoning application will need minor modifications, whereas some of the other applicants are going to have to go through a very full and very time-consuming zoning. As an example, some of the applicants want to build on city property, and they have to go through what's called an alienation procedure. I know that sounds like outer space. It's not really. They have to get approval from the state legislature in 2 consecutive sessions of the legislature in order to be able to build on city land. We don't face that obstacle.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned obviously there'll be 3 licenses, and obviously you've mentioned some benefits for you guys, but obviously there are a few competitors. I don't know if you can tell me who you think perhaps your biggest competitors are, and how you might assess some of the rival bids. Obviously, bearing in mind you just mentioned an advantage you have over what they might have in the certain factors, but in terms of other areas of the bid.
Well, look, we're up against some very substantial competition. Some of our competitors are extremely well-known, influential, wealthy developers. The Times Square project with SL Green, the Hudson Yards project with Related and Wynn. These are formidable competitors. Now, I'm just speaking about the competitors in Manhattan, the borough of Manhattan. Outside of Manhattan, we have Steve Cohn, the owner of the Mets, who also is extremely well connected. And if you go further out onto Long Island, outside of New York City, you have the Sands project in Nassau. So I don't sell any of them short. However, when you look at the requirements and the way the scoring is done by the State Gaming Commission, a lot of it is based on economic development, revenue generation, and employment. And our development will be about a $10 billion development. Will employ, after construction, 8,000 full-time workers. We're up there with the best of them. And again, we think that our site provides advantages over all of them.
Mhm. With the names you mentioned, it's almost a fascinating monopoly board of really, really big key players. But obviously, someone will miss out on the license, and they'll be disappointed for that person. I don't know if in your experience and in your career, what goes through a process like that. So you've put a lot of time and effort into a bid, and if it's unsuccessful, is it very much a case of you go again somewhere else, or what's that like potentially?
Well, as I mentioned, we have zoning. We currently have zoning to build 4 high-rise properties on our 6.7 acres. We have the largest piece of undeveloped property in Manhattan, and we're lucky enough that the site is right on the East River. So it's two blocks south, to put it in perspective, 2 blocks south of the United Nations. It's in an area that needs greater economic development because there's a shortage of retail and food and beverage in the area. If we don't win, and I expect we will win. In fact, I'm optimistic about winning. But if we don't, we still have the property. We still have the rights to build on the property, and we will go ahead and develop the property.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Oh, sorry,
The
Karen.
other competitors, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
like Hudson Yards, has stated if they don't get the license, they will not develop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. I wanted to ask, obviously, you've spoken to us for Gaming America magazine previously, and you spoke about your partner in Mohegan, a very storied partner within gaming. Can you tell us a little bit more about that partnership? And obviously, Mohegan itself recently opened the Inspire in South Korea, which it's gonna sound like a terrible pun, but that probably inspired some confidence for you guys.
Actually, I haven't been there yet, but I've heard a
Hmm.
lot about it. I intend on going and visiting. It's supposed to be an amazing property. So we have a lot of similarities with Mohegan that distinguishes ourselves from almost all of the competition. We're both family run and family operated institutions or organizations. We're not publicly traded. We're not listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We're not mega Las Vegas players. So we've always been more community oriented. To give you an example, in the neighborhood in which our development is, 7 of our family members actually live in that neighborhood.
Hmm.
So we've always been more attuned to the neighborhood needs, the community needs, and been more responsive to them. It's a question of again, not to denigrate any of the Caesars and the Winds and the Sands and the Hard Rocks, amazing groups, incredibly successful, but big public companies with large bureaucracies. We're very comfortable dealing with Mohegan that is also family owned and operated because of our commitment to social responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Definitely take on board your points and which you said to Gaming America before about the community project and certainly the creation of jobs as well, which you said this would lead to sort of thousands of new jobs. I would be remiss if I didn't raise the couple of reports within the last few months of some opposition from residents in Midtown. I don't know how you reflect on that.
So there's been no real now again, I'm talking about Manhattan in New
Mm-hmm.
York City. All of the community associations are opposed to casinos in their neighborhood. There's no exception to that. We believe, and we've had over 40 meetings now with local community organizations to try to educate them. In part, some of the opposition derives from the fear of the unknown. A lot of people have images of casinos that derive from movies and television, and they think about organized crime and money laundering and prostitution. They don't really understand that casinos are the most regulated industry in our country, and that if you don't keep out bad elements, you're going to lose your license. But moreover, we've designed the casino to be unobtrusive. Our casino, like none of the other projects, is below grade. It's not a Las Vegas scene. It's community. It's sort of integrated into the community. You can't even see it from First Avenue, which is the avenue which fronts our property. It's in the back of the property. It's underground. And there's not going to be any large water fountains and bright lights and video screens.
Yeah, that's interesting. And on that basis, I guess what kind of custom profile are you looking to attract, given those differences from, as you say, what could be described as a typical Las Vegas or huge resort?
So look, even though the casino will be below grade, the hotel, which is a 1,250 room hotel, the amenities will be above grade and will be first class. The hotel will be a 5-star hotel. The dining, food and beverage will be everything from a high level food court to 4 or 5-star restaurants. The casino itself is targeted to a high level player. It's although it's below grade, it doesn't mean that the interior design will not compete with the best of them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. On that note, you recently held a virtual vendor information session. Sorry, what were you looking to achieve from that, and how did that go?
It went very well, and again, it's what I refer to as education, explaining to the community what benefits they're going to get. For example, there'll be a almost 5-acre park that will be privately owned but publicly accessible. In that area of Manhattan, there's very little green space. This will be the largest park within the vicinity. In addition to that, we plan on building a museum and community center. The museum will be dedicated, the first in the world, dedicated exclusively to freedom and democracy. But within the museum, there'll be community space available for the community to hold events and meetings. In addition to that, we intend on donating 2% of the net profits from our gaming directly back to the community for whatever use they want, whether they want to use it to beautify their community or to support education or sports events.
Mm-hmm.
So when they begin to learn the advantages, they begin the light bulb kind of turns on, and we've been getting now very good reception. At the beginning, people, we've already changed the design. At the beginning, we were going to do a London type Ferris wheel. And the community said they didn't want that. And so we removed that.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be other changes as we get more feedback from the community.
Yeah, interesting to hear about that adaptability. My next question, you've kind of touched on a lot of just now and throughout the interview so far, but if we're to just talk about the sheer potential, what kind of potential, what kind of size, what kind of numbers are we seeing? Could we see with a New York casino, and I suppose 3 of them as well of this size? I mean, what an impact, what overall impact is it going to have on New York City?
It'll have, I think, a very positive impact. New York City, like many large cities around the world, including London, we've gone through a very difficult time with COVID. Businesses moved out, people moved out, the economy was hurt. And, now that we've got past COVID, we face other challenges. We have a migrant issue. We have a crime issue. We're dealing with conflicts around the world. And don't forget, New York City is where the United Nations is headquartered. And so foreign affairs is something that we pay attention to. We've got the conflicts in Gaza, the conflicts in Ukraine. New York City needs to continue to reinvent itself, to revitalize itself. And this entertainment district will do that, will ensure in some respects that New York City stays the center of the universe. Now, I know I'm biased in saying that because I'm a New Yorker. Others might think that London is the center of the universe, or Paris, or Tokyo. But New York has always been a place where people come, not only for business, but for enjoyment. Broadway, the restaurants, the shopping, the universities. In order to maintain that level of interest in a city, you've got to continue to grow. And that's what this does. By the way, Tim, I call this the World Cup, these licenses, the World Cup of New York State.
Yeah, it's a great line. It's one we picked up on in the Gaming America feature. Certainly very competitive, very high profile. I've got a couple more topics for you. Really appreciate all your insight and answers so far. I'm quite interested to hear your thoughts on this. Obviously, you talk about tax revenue and what this would bring to New York, but that's also a similar discussion when it comes to online gaming and online casino. Obviously, it's not made the budget this year, but as a potential kind of licensee in the land-based sector, what are your thoughts on online gaming, online casino coming to New York potentially in the future? It's certainly not going to happen anytime very soon.
So look, I think it goes hand in hand. Yeah, online gaming is an important element of sports and other forms of gaming. And in terms of the impact that we just spoke about on New York City, our estimates is that our tax obligations will be on an annual basis in the area of about $1 billion, both from casino gambling and from online gaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's very interesting, and certainly what people are campaigning for. I think when you said earlier about the kind of the fear of the unknown, from looking over here from the UK, that I think that can apply perhaps to online casino and iGaming in the US as well, why we're only seeing it in a few states so far, and perhaps why sports betting is a little bit more amenable to a nation, a community that knows a lot more about sports, and I think that's a little more ingrained in the culture.
Indeed, I think way back when, before London had casinos. And there was the same sort of issue. I don't know if you remember, but there was opposition to casinos in London. And again, it was more the fear of the unknown. Look, there are some legitimate concerns amongst the opposition. But some of them are based on myth. For example, they believe that a casino will bring crime to the neighborhood. That's a myth. when COVID hit and the Las Vegas casinos closed down, Tim, crime levels went up. So casinos, because of their security protocols and programs, bring a safer neighborhood environment, not only on the grounds, but around the grounds of a casino. That's one of the myths. That the other myth, for example, there's many of them, is that property values will go down. That's untrue. In every case where casinos are being built, the property values go up. So we have to educate the folks, teach them what really is, what their concerns should be.
Yeah, absolutely. A final question from me, and that it might well tie into kind of the need to educate people, and that's, I guess that's part of your campaign. What's the very next step for you guys? So obviously you mentioned the delay earlier on. What can we expect from you and the Soloviev Group in the coming months? So what's next on the agenda?
So given the decision by the State Gaming Commission 2 days ago, the next step for all the competitors, including us, is to apply for the zoning. We still don't know in New York City whether the zoning is going to be granted by special permit or by as a right to build a casino hotel. We should know that within the next 30 to 60 days. And then you have to go through the modification, in our case, the modification of our previous zoning. That's our next step. We will continue to work with the community to get their input to questions like what they'd like to see, what sort of activities or events they'd like to see on the parkland. We're going to create an advisory board of community members so that the community folks can actually decide what they'd like to see on the park.
Mm-hmm. Well, Michael, best of luck with your next steps and for the project overall. Really appreciate your time, and I think it's fair to say some very objective answers. You didn't shy away from any questions, and so thank you very much for your time.
Tim, it's my pleasure, and it's not in my nature to shy away from questions. I'm not
Fantastic.
a politician.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Michael, and to our viewers, also thanks for watching.
Take care. Bye-bye.